European leaders are increasingly and more publicly speaking out against Trump's war in the Middle East, thereby showing that they must be taken into account when the US wants to drag all of NATO into some kind of adventure. The Spanish authorities are not allowing American planes involved in the war against Iran to use not only air bases on their territory but even their airspace. Madrid has already blocked American troops' access to 2 strategically important bases. Italy also stated today that Trump did not inform anyone in NATO at all about his plans to start a war against Iran, and therefore did not ask for any help. But this is cynicism, disrespect, and therefore Italy is not going to get involved in this war. France and Germany announced the same thing, adding that they are not afraid of Donald Trump's threats. My name is Alexei Peci, let's discuss this topic together, but before we start, I have a request. Subscribe to this channel, give it a like, and leave any comment you want under this episode. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel and consider the information here important and necessary, you can do so with any donation, paid subscription, or sponsorship. All the links and payment details are in the description of this video or in the pinned comment under this episode. In addition, subscribe to my Telegram channel Peachy News, the link to it is in the description of this video. So, today in Europe, Trump was slapped in the face. The Spanish authorities are not allowing American planes involved in the war against Iran to use not only air bases on Spanish territory but also Spain's airspace. With the start of the war, Madrid closed access to its Rota and Marón de la Frontera bases for US refueling planes and bombers, and then banned them from being in its skies. Last week, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez mentioned this in Parliament, and I will now quote him. "We refused the United States the use of the Rota and Marón air bases for this illegal war. All flight plans involving actions related to the operation in Iran were rejected. All of them, including plans for refueling aircraft. Therefore, Spain does not allow it. Even the flights of bombers heading to Iran from a NATO base in the United Kingdom or making 30-hour flights from the United States. If necessary, they pass through the Strait of Gibraltar or continental Europe. And for them, the corridor through Spain was critically important. Well, if you look at the map, you'll understand why. And now Spain is saying, listen, no, don't even fly here. Spanish bases only continue to serve other American military personnel stationed in Europe and provide air navigation support to B-2 bombers flying from the US and back. But if an aircraft is in any way involved in an attack on Iran, it is forbidden even to enter Spanish airspace. Before the war began, let me remind you, 15 KC-135 tanker aircraft arrived in Spain. They were supposed to be used to support the American group that was being built up in the Middle East. Supposedly, as Donald Trump claimed at the time, to put pressure on Iran during the negotiations then underway in Geneva. For this purpose, the US wanted to station their bombers at Spanish bases. Negotiations about this went on for several weeks. In other words, the Trump administration tried to deceive the Spanish. After all, they weren't warned. They were not warned that aircraft were being moved for actual attacks. They were told, look, we'd station a huge number of bombers, tankers, and so on there. But don't worry, we're just doing this to demonstrate strength and put pressure on Iran so that they become more compliant. They were told directly, no, what war, don't even think about it. As a result, the US attacks in March caught their European allies by surprise. Not only were they not informed about the start of the war, but they were also receiving news indicating the opposite. The Americans assured the Europeans that an agreement between representatives of Tehran and Washington was about to be reached in Geneva. Nevertheless, Madrid refused to accept American bombers, and the official request for their deployment was never approved. In addition, Spain vetoed the refueling of aircraft by tankers already stationed at the bases in Morón and Rota. This was a crucial condition, increasing the range of the bombers. As a result, in the first days of the war, on February 28 and March, 1 KC-135 aircraft were urgently relocated from Spain to France and Germany. The bombers now take off for operations against Iran from the English airbase Fairford. and they are refueled by aircraft based in France near Marseille. Well, here it's worth paying attention to a very important point. Despite the losses, Donald Trump accuses European countries of not helping the US in its confrontation with Iran. In fact, bases in the United Kingdom, Germany, Portugal, Italy, France, and Greece play a crucial role in the operations of the American Air Force and Navy. In reality, most European allies have provided extremely important support. And this was stated at recent Senate hearings by General Alexis Grinkovich. He is the commander of US forces in Europe and the supreme commander of NATO's allied forces. So he stated directly, quote, "Europe serves as a staging ground for US operations in the Middle East and Africa. With our network of bases and allies, it's much easier to project power since it's cheaper and the distance is shorter." That's what the general says. And at the same time, Trump, blurts out, "The Europeans aren't helping." Some European countries, having refused to support US actions in Iran, are trying to present their role solely as logistical assistance. For example, at the Aviano Air Base in Italy, there are tanker aircraft servicing long-range bombing missions against Iran. But Italian bases are not being used specifically for bombing. This was stated by Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. Today, Italian Defense Minister Guido Crosetto said that Trump has effectively hung all Europeans out to dry. "We did not support this war and no one asked for our opinion. The duration of wars depends not on the strength of the strongest, but on the resistance of the weakest. Iran is bigger than Ukraine, it has a larger population, and it has a history that spans thousands of years." And of course, it's unlikely that the Trump administration had any hopes that all of Europe would help the US in the operation. But if they did, after today's statements, those hopes can be buried. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. Subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pitchy News. The link is in the description of this video. And if you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so by donating or getting a paid subscription using the links and details in the video description or by scanning the QR code on your screen. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.